I've been watching American politics long enough to know when something breaks from the usual pattern. And on Monday morning, around 11 a.m. Eastern, I felt it immediately. President Trump posted a statement about the death of Rob Reiner. And what followed wasn't the typical explosion of hot takes, cable panels, and instant spin. Instead, there was silence. A pause. You could see it on television. Cheerings would flash Trump's words. Then producers would abruptly cut away. Anchors hesitated. Spokespeople who normally rushed to defend everything went quiet. Even the most aggressive partisan voices on social media seemed to hover over the post button before deciding what to do. That hesitation matters, and we'll come back to it, because by Monday morning, the facts were already known. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle had been found dead Sunday afternoon. Their son had been arrested. A homicide investigation was underway. A family was shattered. And then the President of the United States posted that Rob Reiner died because of the anger he caused others through what Trump called Trump derangement syndrome. He labeled it an affliction. He mocked a murdered man less than 24 hours after his body was discovered. That silence I noticed, that was recognition. Even people who reflexively defend Trump understood they were looking at something different, something that didn't have an easy spin. When even your allies don't know how to defend you, it means you crossed a line most people didn't even realize was there. Here's what people outside Washington don't always see. When the usual battle lines start to crack, something serious is happening. By Monday afternoon, my phone was lighting up with calls from people on both sides of the aisle. They weren't calling to spin. They weren't calling to defend. They were calling because they were genuinely shaken. One former Republican staffer told me, "I don't know what to do with it. This isn't normal." Then Marjorie Taylor Greene, someone who has her own complicated history with Trump but still commands respect from his base, posted that this was a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemy. That mattered. She wasn't making a liberal argument. She was making a human one. Inside the White House, according to people I trust, there was no effort to walk the statement back. No clarification. No suggestion that the president was misunderstood. Just silence from the top, leaving junior staffers to field questions they couldn't answer. That absence of leadership mattered. Meanwhile, Hollywood wasn't just grieving. They were furious. These weren't political activists. These were Rob Reiner's friends, people who had known him for decades, collaborators who were planning his funeral while the president turned his murder into a culture war weapon. The Reiner children, who had just lost both parents and seen their brother arrested, had to watch the president's words dominate every news site and social media feed. Their private nightmare became a national spectacle. Beneath the surface, something shifted. The usual partisan reflexes didn't kick in. Too many people, quietly and instinctively, knew this was wrong. Here's what often gets lost when we talk about power. Words from the Oval Office don't exist in the abstract. They land in real lives. The Reiner children were dealing with police, investigators, and unimaginable grief. And every time they opened their phone, they saw the President of the United States suggesting their father brought his own murder on himself because of political disagreement. That can't be undone. That becomes part of their grief forever. In Hollywood, tributes poured in, stories about Rob's generosity, his talent, his commitment to civil rights. But those tributes were drowned out by arguments over Trump's post. A man's legacy was hijacked in real time. The Jewish community noticed something else. Rob Reiner was a prominent Jewish filmmaker and an outspoken voice against anti-Semitism. Seeing the president mock his death sent a message, whether intended or not. Mental health advocates noticed, too. A story about addiction, family struggle, and tragedy was reduced to a political punchline. The complexity of a father trying to help a troubled son disappeared under tedious jokes. What surprised me most was hearing from Trump voters, ordinary people, who said this crossed a line. One told me, "I didn't vote for this." That's when you know something fundamental has broken. Leadership isn't just about what you do. It's about what you stop from happening. The murders happened Sunday afternoon. The news broke nationally that evening. By Sunday night, every senior advisor in the White House knew the story. There were hours, plenty of time, to intervene. Either no one stopped the president, or no one could. Both possibilities are alarming. Someone should have said, "Mr. President, their son has just been arrested. The family is grieving. This is not the moment." That conversation either never happened, or it didn't matter. Then the post went live Monday morning, not at 3 a.m., not in a fit of rage, but after nearly 20 hours. Time to think, time to consult, time to choose differently. And here's what was chosen. Not silence, not condolences, but mockery. Blaming a murdered man for his own death. Turning a family homicide into a statement about political grievance and personal vindication. That isn't impulsive. That's calculated. Once those words were public, there was no fixing it. You can't unmock a murder victim. You can't restore dignity once you've stripped it away on purpose. The post wasn't just offensive. It was strategic. It told supporters that political enemies deserve what they get. It warned critics what awaits. It told a grieving family their pain mattered less than a grievance. And once the message is sent, it becomes permanent. Trump didn't delete the post. He didn't clarify. He didn't apologize. As far as anyone knows, he didn't reach out privately. His team simply moved on. as if this were just another news cycle. That made recovery impossible. When historians write about this presidency, when the Reiner children tell this story years from now, this moment will be there. A president mocking a murder victim. That doesn't fade. For Democrats, this confirmed their worst fears. For Republicans who stayed silent, it cost them moral authority. The next time they speak about civility or tone, this will be remembered. Silence isn't neutral. Silence is a choice. And when cruelty carries no consequence, cruelty becomes currency. That's how democracies hollow out. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Here's the truth about power. When you're president, your words don't belong to you anymore. They belong to the country. You represent all Americans, including the ones who disagree with you. Political opponents are still citizens, still human beings. What this moment revealed is a worldview where opponents aren't fellow Americans. They're enemies. And when enemies suffer, even violently, that suffering becomes an opportunity. That isn't leadership. It's domination. And when a president models dehumanization, it gives permission. It teaches people that empathy is weakness and cruelty is strength. But power without empathy isn't strength. It's force. And force without conscience destroys everything it touches, including democracy. So this moment isn't really about one post or one tragedy. It's about what we decide is normal. There used to be a floor in American politics, a line we didn't cross. I'm watching that floor disappear. People will say, this is just Trump being Trump. But when did that phrase come to include mocking murder victims? Democracy survives on norms, habits, and shared commitment. Every generation has to decide whether to protect them or let them erode. This is that test, not for Trump. He's already shown us who he is. For the rest of us, do we say this is wrong? Clearly, consistently, regardless of party. Or do we scroll past, wait for the next outrage, and accept this as the cost of doing politics now? Because if we choose silence, we're not just losing argument, we're losing the idea that we're...